Today's guest is one of my favorite people in the solar industry, my dear friend, Eoin Carey. Past 6 years of his experience, he's become one of the top mentors in our nationwide power platform, helping countless professionals sharpen their skills and grow their solar business. He comes from a family of electricians and electrical systems. So anytime I have a go to technical question, he's one of the first people that I call. He's incredibly knowledgeable, down to earth, fun guy. We played some Call of Duty last couple of months, and just excited to nerd out with you. Welcome to the podcast, Owen.
Thanks, Jonathan. I wish I knew you at the beginning of the pandemic because it was Call of Duty every night when we didn't have
There you
much.
go. I was
Uh,
doing the same, man. Yeah, we didn't know each other then, but I was doing the same, man. I was stuck inside playing Call of Duty. It's a terrible life.
yeah, it was pretty fun. We had a rule you couldn't drink alcohol until the sun went down. But I remember playing. We probably played against each other, just didn't know it.
Well, I mean, the fact that you're Irish, that's not a fair rule. I think you guys start drinking when you wake up, I thought. So,
We do, yeah, just to keep the rules, just to tone it down a bit, so we don't take over the planet, as the Simpsons once said back in the day. But thanks for having me on here today. Been looking forward to this, and it's always fun talking to Jonathan Charles Wilson. I think we can go down large rabbit holes, big rabbit holes, but today we definitely want to focus, and I can give a little background about myself. It's
sure.
a strange spelling. It's Owen, which you just forget the E. But that's Irish. My parents, my dad, electrical engineer, electrician. We immigrated to America when I was one with a twin brother, and then he went to Berkeley, finished his degree, and I grew up in Northern California. And honestly, out of college, I got my business degree in economics. I love economics and business, and I took one sales class, and I was like, holy smokes, like all this other stuff, cool, I get it, but like this is me. So I worked in restaurants, was the top server there. And actually, out of college, I tried to get a job with Solar City, entry level position, go in for the interviews, and they go, "Oh, and we're sorry, you don't have enough experience for this job." And I was like, out of
They
college,
missed out.
you're crushed, right? You think, oh, I get my degree, this expensive piece of paper, it's just going to work out, right? So I got a job with a wine importer and distributor because I love wine, and did that for 6 years. Was a top salesperson for that small company. And what's cool is we were an importer, so I got to go to Argentina and Chile and Spain a couple of times on the company's dime and visit all the vineyards. And for me, I'm not necessarily a hippie. I think Jonathan knows I kind of sit in the middle politically, but the reality is Republican, Democrat, we are messy. We're a messy species, and you could see the impact. I mean, you could see creek beds full of plastic bottles. I mean, I saw that in Peru. It destroyed me because you can't drink the local water. Nobody can. It has to be bottled waters. And you see these beautiful valleys, and you look down the creek, and it's literally miles of water bottles. And also in the wine industry, people take shortcuts and they just spray pesticides like crazy. And you can see the impact that it has on vineyards that have that and not. But anyway, that was a good career. You cap out at like 80K a year, and you're kind of a professional drunk, not gonna lie. You taste wines every day, but you hustle. So I know you have an audience of door knockers. I used to go knock doors at people's restaurants and sit there until I would meet the winemaker or wine buyer. And that was a fun job, but COVID crushed it.
Mm.
Every single account I had was restaurants that would pour my wine by the glass. I'm in the Bay Area. No restaurants were allowed to be open. So that's when I knew I had to pivot. And plus, now we can drink coffee and drink water during this. But jumped into the solar space
So
and
you jumped in 2020 then?
2020. Yes.
Wow, the hardest time to start solar. I actually didn't realize that or connect the dots. So, yeah, how did you get started?
I jumped in. I still was getting some money from PPP money because my company did get that, and I actually waited tables at my buddy's restaurant in San Francisco. Didn't need the money, just need to keep myself busy. And I started knocking doors during COVID. You have the mask on. You have the next door people pulling up on you, like checking your badge. And I
And what
joined a
what company was this for?
uh, ESP. What? No, was
Oh,
it?
ESP.
Sorry, SEP, Solar
Oh,
Energy Pros.
okay.
And I'll give you my bird's eye view was like, okay, I just need to get in and understand and grasp what's going on. And it was the same mentality I've seen in the solar space of don't ask questions. What we're selling, what we're offering is the best. And there is no answer of why. These are the best panels. At the time, hardly sold any batteries because it was NEM 2. And in my mind, I was like, well, okay, this is the best product, but what other products are out there? What are my competitors doing? And the reason I brought up the wine thing was that was really important in the wine industry that my boss and one of my best friends, Shelby, taught me like you should always know exactly what you're selling and understand it and know what other countries or other wineries are doing because then you're well rounded and people are going to respect that. So it was a door knocking company. It was definitely like the
They did
pyramid.
and
The pharaohs.
they probably didn't respect that. They were like, "Hey, go out there and knock more doors, don't ask questions."
Yeah, exactly. They used to go on a stage and they came out with like the pharaoh spikes and the full Egyptian mask. Like they were the pharaohs of the pyramid scheme, like on top, shining into the sky. But and I knew this, I recognized it. But then I also said, like, look, I've been in commission sales for a long time now. It doesn't matter this stuff too much. What really matters is how much hustle can I get? How much can I build a pipeline and get after it? So as time came along, I started to learn and grow. And then the guy who recruited me to that company joined Power and said, "Oh, you should come to this company instead." And then right away, I was like, "Oh, this is legit." We went on, we did meetings, and there was trainings, and I was like, "Heaven forbid you get some training on the equipment that we're selling, the finance that we're selling, to really understand what we're doing here." So that's kind of my jump in splash to the industry.
Nice.
Uh,
Wow, what an amazing entry, and you found out about Power, and what year was that then that you got introduced to Power?
I want to say 2021. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's
So
actually pretty cool.
right when it started, yeah, Power started really taking off in 2020, 2021. So you kind of got in at a good time.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's kind of just bring it up to the past couple years. Let's kind of just skip ahead a little. The past 2 years, obviously, any of our listeners know it's been interesting. We'll say interesting times. What have you seen in the solar industry the past 18, 24 months?
It all kind of started the 18 months ago. I bring that up because it started before the big beautiful bill, where the tariffs. Remember, we had the tariffs hit, and all of the imports, the costs went skyrocketed up. Even and then you couldn't even get material. If we remember Q-Cell, even though they are domestic, they do also make panels in Korea. And then it was questioned of was some of that coming from China that we couldn't sell Q cells, we couldn't sell this and that, and then prices were going up pretty dramatically. So prices went up on that. Fast forward a little bit there's the big beautiful bill, which I'm sure several of us were kind of anxiously waiting, like, what's the update here? What's going on? But it was a big bill, right? There's a lot of different things going on. And then you hear the stories of CEOs of Goodleap and Sunrun flying out to Washington to try to save the solar tax credit, and then it got saved for TPO, right? So then we knew the parameters, and we got 6 months. Hey, you got to get these installed, completed. A lot of back and forth on that, and then the whiplash of materials, right? So we talked about the tariffs that
Right.
came into effect really at the end of the 6 months. That even one client, for example, right now I'm working with, the company promised REC panels, came to install, they couldn't get the equipment. So now we were able to find a path forward with my company, but that was a real thing going on. So right now we also took a step back, which breaks my heart, is I love technology. I love gadgets. And we were at a space before this happened of technology advancements. If we talk about batteries, where we saw them 3 years, 4 years ago, you're like, okay, we could back up your lights and all this, but now we could back everything up. We have smart circuits, we have span, all this new cool technology coming. Now the question that we have is it American enough, right?
Right.
Is the racking American? We can't even do nobody can do a ground mount right now, which is
Right.
crazy.
It is
Um,
crazy.
and it's not a matter of is the technology we kind of get paused on is the technology getting better. So right now, that's the big thing. What's American enough? And PPAs.
Right.
We could even talk about Sonova. Should we talk about that, Jonathan?
Let's talk about it, man. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's product gaps, huge product gaps right now, and all the companies have been scrambling for months while companies just continue to go under because of we can't serve clients, only even in California, which is, the most mature solar market in the entire country, right? We can't get access to stable finance partners, which we can touch on, and also you can't get access to equipment because it doesn't fall within the domestic U.S. manufacturing requirements and all this kind of craziness. But yeah, I mean, I was definitely I got hit personally by the Sonova. I've shared that story a little bit before where I just got married January of last year, and the first week of me being married, we got confirmation before it happened that for sure Sonova was going to go bankrupt, and they weren't paying us, weren't paying everybody, and I lost. I remember looking at my wife, our first week of marriage, and saying, "Hey, I know we just got married. You just moved in. We made all these changes, but I just lost almost $40,000 of my pipeline." And I know people who lost six figures, even seven figures, and lost their companies even worse. So 40,000 was actually not a bad deal considering what other people lost. But yeah, what was that like for you and your business?
I mean, it's similar. It was like $30,000 in the pipeline. I remember sitting at my kitchen table by myself. I mean, I cried. I was like, shit, man, like I worked my ass off to get these people to trust me, to like me, to get these across. And I don't care what company you worked with in the past, you still have to work once a product is signed. Like the people just sign a deal and just oh it will just happen, sure, right? There's stuff you still have to do, the welcome calls and everything that you're dealing with on that side. So it was rough, but what I did was I diversified because I kind of got a vibe of like, hey, I still like loans. I still like ownership. And when I in my sales package, I don't like to just do one thing. Is offer multiple different types of finance products, different types of equipment that I was able. I still had income from these loan jobs that we're about to install. So I was able to make a path forward through those. But it kind of like burns you, right? And then we move into the new year and now it's like PPAs only. And I'm like, man, am I really getting in bed with these folks again? Especially with the lease companies, they ask a lot of questions. I call them the vegan that you invite to the steakhouse sometimes. That they're gonna have their questions, their rules. And one of the telling things for me with Sonova was jobs being done correctly because I know the installers and they're like, "Hey, Sonova's not funding this because of this and that." And I'm like, "It sounds like somebody that doesn't want to write a check, making an excuse."
Right.
So that was frustrating. But then you gotta, as my brand of KFS, you keep fucking selling. And what that means is you can sit around and mope, right? My mom is an Irishman, moping, crying, whatever, like breaking up with the next girlfriend. Um, or you could just keep filling up your pipeline. Right? If you don't
Right.
have a pipeline, you're toast. I've seen it with so many solar pros. They make one sale, they're texting me off the hook. Oh, and when is this getting installed? What's blah blah? Like, when am I getting paid? The answer is when are you getting the next lead? When are you
Exactly.
when are you gonna keep you can't just have a garden, right? If you think of it like a garden, you can't just live off of one tomato plant, right? You gotta have the basil, the peas, you gotta have the whole thing, or you're just gonna run out of money. So the reality is hey, sit around and mope. How do you show off Sonova? Is how do you transfer these over to loans? How do you move them over? Obviously, it was lost for everybody, but it crushed a lot of companies, and I think it crushed a lot of people's confidence, which is sad.
Yeah, I mean, I back on that, I have a sales team I manage, and one of my guys, God bless him. I feel so bad. He'll put through deals and then they fall through it for some reason or another. And I'm, trying to like coach him. He's a bit older than me, so maybe there's a little bit of like, I don't know. I'm not too sure. I don't want to read too much between the lines. And maybe it's like a little bit of ego, or it's like, who's this young kid, Jonathan, coming in telling me how to run my business. And so I just, I try to give them space. And obviously, hey, it's your own business. When you're a salesperson, it's really like a mini business inside of a business. So, and I'm just kind of saying, oh wow, like all these deals fall through. He finally gets like a really solid one that signs, and like it seems like everything's going well, and we're getting close to like getting install ready, and we're waiting for San Diego Gas and Electric to give final approval for interconnection. And wouldn't you know it, they open with a transformer upgrade. You already know where this is going. Hey, by the way, we need, and this is becoming more common. I mean, years ago, I've been doing this since 2013. That was never a thing. There was never transformer issues. In the past couple years, I've noticed a lot of these local grids, supposedly, I'm just taking the utilities at their word. Maybe that's another one of their scams because they have plenty of those. But they're just saying, oh, we got to upgrade the transformer. It's going to take us 12 months to do it. And, we're locked out. Nothing we can do. Sorry, hands are tied. Because guess what? Where are we getting all the transformers from?
China.
China, right? So this is the part that pisses me off. If I can get pissed for a quick second, what pisses me off is that as a solar industry that provides energy infrastructure, we're treated like the ugly, step kid or whatever you want to call it, just treated like garbage, and told, oh, you got to have 55% of your materials coming from U.S. manufacturing, and it's raising costs and making all these different regulatory complexity. Yet the very utility grid infrastructure that's scamming millions and millions of homeowners every single day, not providing any value, and just raising rates without, reckless abandon. They get all their crap from China. We don't make a lot of these transformer components in the United States. That's why it takes so long, because guess who comes first? Chinese infrastructure and building Chinese power grids, or the leftovers that they ship out to the US, because they're trying to kick our ass, and they
Mhm.
are. And if we're having to rely on their supply chains to maintain our own infrastructure, we're screwed. And so I just get on a little bit on a high horse with that, because a lot of people they don't know these things, right? Like the average consumer is like a goldfish in a fishbowl, and you're like, hey, the water levels are lowering, and there's not enough water, and they're like, what water? What are you talking about, right? I don't know what water is. And
Right.
you're surrounded by it. It's like, so that's what you're seeing is like salespeople don't know. Like a quick shout out to the book. I don't know if you've ever read this one, Owen. Have you ever read or listened to The Grid? I forget the author. It's called The
No.
Grid. It's a
Mm.
fun one. It's the historic. It gives you a pretty good historical reference of the entire development of the United States, the three different power grids in the United States: the Western, Eastern, and Texas.
Mhm.
And a really fascinating read for anybody who wants to become like truly expert on bigger picture what's happening, right? So let's get into some of the big picture, right? So that's some of the challenges, that's some of the things that have happened. I really want to get in your head on this, Owen, and understand like what do you think are some of the moves in the next 6 to 12 months, like from a financing standpoint. Talk about some of the tech, right? What types of batteries, inverters, like should we keep sticking with this domestic content and kind of being forced down this little keyhole of options, or is there a whole big space out there? What should we do?
Well, before we go into that, I do want to talk about the grid for a second,
Let's do it.
and let's talk about what's solar. So let's talk about NEM2 and NEM1, or net metering. Okay,
Yes.
so in those utilities, your energy can flow back, and if you have ever looked at a solar app of Enphase or Solar Edge, you can see the solar production. It's kind of this cute ballet, I call it, of like this beautiful creation of slow energy, right? And now we add batteries. We'll take Tesla, for example. Okay. So one Tesla battery has 11.5 kilowatt inverter. Okay. So if you have energy coming in, it's a slow creation. of energy. That's what we used to have. Tesla, for example, now it stores 13.5 kilowatts. And if it wanted to, it could push energy back into the grid. We're talking about 10 times more powerful than it could before with just solar. So these utilities and their transformers, what they're calling out is your Tesla inverter can push a ton of energy back in the grid that is literally like shooting a bullet at that transformer. So this is their concern, which is reasonable. But guess what? We don't want our energy to touch your fucking grid. Okay?
Right.
We don't want it to go to you. We want to keep it for ourselves and store it for ourselves. So there is a device called a PCS power control switch that is it's UL listed, which means utilities. We don't care what you think. You have to approve this setting. And what it does is when you're creating energy at your house, you can still have full capacity on the input. When it pushes back to the grid, you can use a setting that pretty much says, hey, we're going to reduce the kilowatts that can be pushed back in the grid. So PCS settings are approved and allowed. And I warned, I think I cried to you guys. Not really cried, like not a Sonova cry.
Like
Uh,
mope.
I moped about it to you guys about PG&E because that's where I'm at, PG&E territory, and they were the first to kind of start this transformer push. And full picture, all you reps and techs and people sound out there, oh, we're installing in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. If you're not getting utility approval before you install, you are asking for a
Oh,
headache,
it's a nightmare.
especially if you're selling TPO, because guess what? What I just suggested of toning down that inverter means when your battery is full, you have less energy you can create. So GoodLeap, Lightreach, all these companies do not like PCS setting because now the production guarantee is at risk,
Right.
right?
So
Even though
are you saying, and I'm again, forgive me because I'm not as technical on that stuff, but are you saying that the PCS not only reduces backfeed to the grid, but it also reduces like the intake power as well?
no, it doesn't reduce the intake, but suppose I have a full day or I'm out of the house for 2 weeks. Suppose I'm
Okay.
on vacation. Okay. So I'm still going to be able to produce energy at the pace that the house needs.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it'll when the backfeed because of that. So if there's a bunch of excess solar production and it's trying to flow back through to the grid,
It's going to
it won't be
send
able
itself.
to because now it's got a keyhole of to push back through, so it can't actually export fully.
Yes,
So the system will actually have to throttle down and reduce the output, which will break the production guarantee models. Interesting.
exactly.
I actually didn't know that. I just learned
Yeah.
that right now. So
But the reality is, what's silly about it is you don't want to push energy back to the grid anyway, right? So, um, the thing is, if you use the PCS, it's fine. It's great, and it actually is a safety measure because the reality, if you do three Powerwall threes, for example, with let's say a 12 kilowatt solar system, you don't need what is that? It's 11.5, 30, 40 kilowatt inverter. Holy smokes. And this is when the expansion packs became so nice with Tesla and these PCS settings. But going back to PG&E, the letter that PG&E sends you when it's a transformer upgrade, it says, hey, this transformer can only handle X. You're at Y. You can use PCS settings to match what that transformer is. And what really rattles my feathers is you have Edison and SDG&E calling these out now, but they're a bunch of noobs because we'll use the video game word,
right.
noob engineers, because they should be saying, okay, you can use PCS settings or do non-export, but they should be saying this transformer can handle 7 kilowatts. Okay, cool. Now I know what I need to do on my settings to tone it down, but they're not giving that to you
They're not
guys.
doing that. Literally, the San Diego one, they just said no. It's a binary response. Nope, yes, no. Nope, we're not approving this. And it's like, well, wait a second. What do you mean no? Like that's not a valid answer. Like they're just killing.
They're going to
They're
get
kind of
sued.
they have
And
to get sued. And
and
this is what
because
happens. These utilities are I get another high horse. It's like, but these utilities they don't care. And the average customer, I mean, shoot, I just learned something right now, and I've been doing this for almost 14 years, right? So it's like the average customer or the average sales rep doesn't know these things. And so they're just like, what the heck? Why can't we install her? Oh, this other installer will do it because, like you said, they'll install it without interconnection application, and then they're screwed because that system will never get fully turned on. And it
No,
creates a nightmare experience, a nightmare, literally worst case scenario
yep.
experience.
And
And
they don't pay. So Sunrun, Goodleap, DPO, they don't accept partial PTOs, is what they call it.
yeah,
So nobody gets paid fully on those jobs till you get PTO. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Maybe I'm a little bit because I think Big Beautiful Bill, everyone thought it was oil and all this influence. I think the utilities had a big key in this. They were getting their butts kicked. Now they're fighting back. I also think, hey, they know that the installer is not going to get fully paid until we upgrade that transformer.
right.
Maybe I'm just being a
No, that's what they're doing. They've always done this. They've done this in the past too. Even years ago, even on the NEM 2 days, they would play games, and whatever way they could to drag their feet long enough to string out these installers, so that way they can't get paid from the finance companies and they just go bankrupt. So
yeah,
I get asked this all the time, and it kind of a little bit frustrating question. But it's like I'll get people say, "Well, Jonathan, why do so many solar companies go bankrupt? I don't get it." And
right.
I'm like, do you have 2 hours? I can give you a seminar. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as simple. It's extremely, and I've been using this metaphor lately. I said, well, let me just tell you this before we go forward, Mr. Homeowner, Miss Homeowner. I say, look, every other home upgrade in your house is like grade school level intelligence. Solar and batteries is a PhD.
Yep.
This is the smartest product you will probably ever install over the next decade into your home. And it's very complicated. There's a lot of engineering involved. We have to get permission from 3 different regulators, not just the city. If you upgrade an ADU or if you build something, you got to get the city. Every contractor has to deal with the city. Because we're doing batteries, we have to deal with the fire department, the fire marshal, and we
Mhm.
have to deal with the big one, the utilities, to get permission to interconnect to their power grid. And there's a lot of engineering involved in approval to interconnect with that grid. And again, homeowners, that's the way I say it in a sales kind of pitch. But once something gets stopped and they go, what the heck, why is this taking so long? Or customers get frustrated, or sales reps, because they don't know how to articulate what's happening to the homeowner, right? You typically, homeowners, if you communicate, they're fine. I don't really get these issues. But a newer sales rep who's trying to learn, well, how do I communicate this? It's not just a simple process. Oh, cool, we signed a contract, awesome, let's pull a permit. Okay, cool, now we're installing it next week. Like, nope. Not at all. And then the homeowners are like, why the heck, I'm working with this incompetent company. I'm like, actually, you're working with the most competent group of people you've probably ever worked with. It's just the level of regulation and complexity involved is insane. So with that said, why don't we just do all non-exports and say F you to the utilities and not get permission from these freaking, hall monitor freaking criminals who are just stopping us? Like, that's what I've thought for years. Like, why can't we just say, you know what? Screw you, utility. I'm not going to interconnect with you. I don't want to interconnect with you. My equipment doesn't touch your equipment. And I never want to be involved with you ever again. Go take a hike. Why don't we do that?
It's a good point. I've done plenty of non-exports. The problem though is that it will throttle if you overproduce, and there's also the big VPPs, the virtual power plants. That right now, the way that they operate in California is if there's an event, you can send energy back into the grid to get some money back from your battery. It's at times, right? I always say when. Solar and battery is about when. When do you need energy? When does the grid need energy? And that is the next phase. But we do have a guy named Gavin who dines at the French Laundry, takes money from PG&E, and actually the next guy that's probably going to be governor, he takes money from PG&E too. Texas is enrolling these programs now where it's not just events; it could be nightly, where you produce your surplus energy and push it in the grid for good compensation. California, that it's in the legislation to move to that program. And what will happen is the battery can flow into the grid on a regular heat wave or a regular day, and you're getting compensated for your battery. That is the next phase of batteries. It's just being pushed back and forth politically, that will not be available for non-export systems.
Mhm.
So also non-exports TPO won't do those because you're running into the production guarantee issue. If I was a TPO company, I would just say, hey, sign a waiver, scratch the production guarantee, and
Investors don't like that though. This is the
invest.
problem. This is another problem. These sorry to cut you off on that, but this is another problem with these big TPO providers again that the average person, consumer, average sales rep has no idea why. They're like, "Well, why can't we do this or why this other company does it?" And I'm like, "No, it's not true. Like these other companies don't do it because the finance providers are beholden to the shareholders and the investors. And the shareholder I've said this so many times just beating this drum. It's like we're in an industry where a shareholder that is looking to turn a profit and get a dividend, right? They're the ones dictating what's best for the consumer. And that's a shame. It's a crying freaking shame because there's all these games and numbers and money that has to flow in exchange between people to basically make the shareholders happy, and it creates all this bloat in the cost stack. We can only use this type of equipment with this type of thing, and we have this exclusive partnership over here. And by the way, the modules are 65 cents a watt when just a couple years ago you could get modules for 20 cents a watt or whatever, right? It's like
Mhm.
crazy increases in the cost stack. And same thing with the batteries. Like, why the heck are we selling batteries at $1,000, $1,300 a kilowatt when you can buy an electric car battery with wheels and components and a windshield and architecture and framing for $40,000 for a 40 kilowatt battery? Wait a second, let me do some math. Wait, that's only $100 a kilowatt. Plus, it's got all this other shit. Why does it cost $15,000 for my 10 kilowatt end phase battery? Like, that seems kind of like a scam to me if you just do simple math. And so there's all these exclusivity partnerships because it's just a giant money grab. And I think people who aren't idiots, they see that. And there's a reason why they go, well, Trump is right. It's the green new scam, as he calls it.
Mhm.
I always try to see both sides of the argument. I don't, left or right or politically, whatever. Similar to you, I think most people are somewhere in the middle, but it's like, if you just look at the math and the numbers, you're like, wait a second, somebody's making a crap ton of money here purely based upon politics, purely based upon what the investors are expecting. And the investors are only doing this for money. They have zero idea of what the customer actually needs or wants. And it's just a severe disconnect. The gap is so big, it almost seems like, can we even bridge that gap, or should we just say screw it and we all just go rogue and say we're not playing ball with your bullcrap requirements anymore? They're insane. Like, we're just going to do our own thing. Like, that's kind of what it seems like. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with like what is domestic enough, right? And it was the end phase of the world. Like at one point, end phase was going to be the only domestic product because they were sneaking into Washington and they had the lobbyists there, right? And then Tesla got in, Solar Edge, I think, got in, and it's them putting in the money in their lobby to make this influence, not a matter of like what's American enough, right? So it starts with that, and it's kind of the game, right? They're all publicly traded companies. They kind of have more insights than we do. They probably, I always say, they bought a nice bottle of wine for the right person
Yeah.
when it comes to lobbying. I'm kind of sick of. I'm excited to see more technology, and I actually really like Sig Energy. I saw them in Vegas. They're, I believe, the number one or number two battery in Europe right now. Part of the reason I like that is they don't have the micros or the optimizers, and those things, they're cool, right? You have a micro inverter optimizer, sort of cool. If you have an issue, it's expensive. It's a lot to fix. There's a lot of equipment. People have to get back on the roofs and get on, do all this customer service. I was just on a service call on site because my client was out of town for Solar Edge. And the girl on the phone was just finding every reason in the world not to just send us a new inverter, right? It was just not her fault. It's not Solar Edge's fault. Um, but anyway, what I like is simplicity. And this is what's cool what Tesla did and what the Franklin S is a very cool new product. They don't have they have their own MCIs on the roof, so you don't have a microinverter costs more than a freaking solar panel. And if you've ever seen a microinverter, it's like this little black device. It
Yeah.
should not cost more than a freaking solar panel. Like,
Right.
so Sig Energy, back to them. What I like about that component is they actually have a bidirectional charger on the top of the battery.
Really?
And what people also don't realize about bidirectional, they think of the commercial with the F-150, the
Right.
Ford Lightning, whatever. You plug in your car to charge your
Yeah.
house.
It backs up your house. Yeah.
Okay, so we go back to the transformer issue there. We talk about one Tesla, two Tesla batteries, the utility worry about the transformer. What do you think about a 100 kilowatt battery plug in your house to charge back to the grid? No way is that happening anytime soon, right?
Right. Yeah. That's gonna like you said, a bullet. It's gonna take a bazooka launcher to the local transformer.
Exactly. So what you'd have to do is turn off the grid. You disconnect yourself from the grid like
Got
a
it.
generator, and then you're generating your own house at that point.
Makes
But
sense.
the component I like about bidirectional charging is it's the way we do charging now at houses is DC on the roof to AC, and then you have to go AC to DC back to the car charger.
Got
So
it.
you're adding inversion even with the Tesla, all
And
the
you're
things.
losing a few percent each time you convert it. Yeah.
It's just stupid, right? It's just like, hey, this material is raw and it's ready for my car.
Right.
Okay, push
DC
it.
to DC straight to the car. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great band, AC/DC, whatever, but like, it's just go. Let's just do direct current to direct current there, and that to me is exciting because we talk about overflow, right? If you could plug in your charger and you charge during the day, especially in M3, overflow, boom, you're trickle charging to your car, DC to DC. And to me, efficiency that is the key. But what I like about that battery, it's stackable. You don't have all these micros optimizers. And I'm like, when can we get there? So yesterday, I brought it up to Jonathan Budd, CEO of Power. He's great. And I'm like, when can we just say, screw all these regulations, use this material. We can't even do ground mounts, we can't do ballast. It's just like, come on, I just need the right material. And the problem is our suppliers, right? So if you're a supplier right now, like let's say CED, and you're like, hey, I want to get this cheaper equipment that's not domestic, not FIOC, um, but they say, oh, who's going to buy this? So if you
Right.
import it, you got to sell it. But they're not
It's
going
just
to
gonna sit
import
on the shelf. Yeah.
it on the shelf. You paid for it, you imported, and it just sits there. And then you have a liquidation sale like a mattress firm. So they're not dumb. But I do foresee it coming, but there's still the tariffs. There's still tariffs on this equipment that adds the extra cost.
So
Other folks.
it's almost like they have to artificially increase the pricing and just get smaller quantities until there's enough demand where they can, kind of safely and carefully reduce the price back to maybe what it should be, in order to do that. But it is interesting, right? Because even if you think about the distribution model of our industry, like again, when I'm talking to a homeowner, I'm like, yeah, so what's different about our industry versus getting a roof done or getting your patio built or whatever is you can't go to Home Depot and buy an inverter or a panel or a battery. You can't go anywhere. There's no place for that. There is no consumer level, place to go and just buy these things. And so because of that, it's a very very different industry that we operate in, and we're playing by very different rules. And I think again a lot of homeowners, they don't understand that, or you, even if you're decent at like explaining it to them, they still are like, okay, well, but why? Or it's kind of frustrating. And I'm like, no, trust me, I get it. It is frustrating. I wish it was that easy. We could just go run down the street and it's on the shelf at the store and we could go buy it and it's got, a pretty stable, price point and it's not fluctuating every other month, But that's not what it is. It's like it's very unstable. It's a supply and demand. It's constantly changing. And then you've got these finance companies that are like controlling the faucet of, so to speak. Like you said, oh, wait a second, we just got this huge influx. We don't have enough funding to fund all these jobs. We have to start playing games with the active jobs and saying, hey, now we're requiring this in our funding. It's because they do all this song and dance and they come up with bullshit. Oh, well,
Yeah.
it's because the investors need these new requirements. No, it's because all of a sudden you got all this demand that you couldn't pay out and you can't write the check for it. So you're just coming up, you're buying yourself time. And while you're, making the industry float costs, making the suppliers float costs, the installers float costs, the salespeople not get paid, no one's getting paid. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, cool. Now we caught up on everything. How do we pump up sales again? Because now sales is down because we don't, we lost trust with all of our partners because we didn't pay them for a month or two or three or longer, right? And they're
Yeah.
like holding on by a thread. And now we have to go send out our little silly account manager pawns to be like, hey guys, we got the newest thing since sliced bread. Come back to us. And we're like, no, we don't trust you. Like, we don't freaking trust you. We're not going to go and sell your product. You don't pay us on time. Well, we got all that fixed now. It's all better now. And then it just wash, rinse, and repeat all over every 3 to 6 months. And the industry is so unstable. It's like a house of cards that we're all playing on. And sometimes it's so frustrating because again, when you actually understand the cost stack and you're like, wait a second, so I'm building this person a $50,000 system. It fits into all the little cookie cutter boxes that the investors want, and it meets all this criteria and all this kind of hoopla that we go through. When in reality, if we were just sourcing this equipment from like a global procurement where we were able to get, shipping containers full of, 18-cent a watt panels and inverters that are cheaper and batteries that are $200-300 a kilowatt, we could bring down the equipment cost stack, 150%, like in theory, right? We should be able to bring the cost stack down so much that we don't even need money from all these outside investors that want to control every little detail of our lives. And that's kind of the thesis of this thing is like, do we need these criminals, right? And I call them criminals. Like, they are literally criminals. If you're in any of these companies, I'm sorry. I love my friends at Sunrun. It's nothing about you personally, but the investors who back Sunrun, Goodleap, Lightreach, all of them are criminals. I don't care what you say. You're not going to convince me otherwise. They don't care about consumers, no matter how much they preach that they do. They don't. All they
Yeah.
care about is making their stupid investors happy. All right, I'm done.
No, you're good. I mean, and you talk about an escalator, it's going the PPA route.
Yeah, let's talk about the
Like,
PPA.
holy, like I've won so many bids now where I'm like, oh, well, I'm 190 a month with the 3.59. And I just show them the escalation. Do you realize that escalates? They confuse it with interest. And to me, it's like, why isn't that being explained? And we're Sunrun, we're great. And it's just like, no, this is shit on bread. I mean, it's just literally, it's such a bad deal that where I see, we talked about earlier, where do I see the industry going is with these prepaids or even just straight up cash deals. What's good about those is the consumer is going to get the financing, right? If you talk about a prepaid deal, let's say it's $100,000 just to make the numbers round, right? Now it's $70,000 of that $100,000 project with a 30% tax credit is being funded by a loan company that's going to pay. They're going to pay out. They don't care. You could do non-exports. You could do systems where they don't care about PTO. And now you're just waiting. Now that finance company only has to find 30 grand versus 100 grand. See what I'm saying here? Is like
Yeah. No, I
that's
see what you're
where
saying. Like, that's where the play is that, it's still, yeah, is it still bloated? Is there still a lot of politics? Is there still only certain equipment that we can use? Yes, but it is better, right?
right.
It is better on paper because we're not beholden to a lot of the restrictions. A lot of these PPA providers, they skim tons of value off these VPPs that we talked about, where
Yep.
they're just pocketing, all of that. It's like, okay, like for instance, if you buy a Tesla Powerwall and you own it and you have one Tesla, you can currently in California get in Edison territory, you can get $350 a year for that VPP for one battery. Well, if you have Goodleap, you get $15 per grid event that
Mhm.
happens. So like
Yeah.
last year at my house, we had 4 grid events. So we got a check for $60.
What'd you do with
So
that
wait,
money?
what's that?
What'd you do with that $60? You
Oh,
get
we
like
went to McDonald's, dude.
some ice cream? Oh,
Went to McDonald's, dude. Yeah. So,
woo. There you
No, so
go.
it's like, wait a second. So Tesla is providing 350, so I'm assuming that the $290 delta went straight into Goodleap's pocket, right?
Mhm.
Because that money still is there, right, for the VPP, but they paid us 60 bucks. So they took
Yeah.
290, right? So these companies are just skimming a tremendous amount of value, pumping up sales reps to go out and pitch the product, you know. And again, from a conceptual level, you know me, I like to sell the PPAs. I like the concept of it. I think it's a lower perceived risk for a lot of the average homeowners that we speak with. But again, on both sides, whether it's it's like they're slightly better. Yeah, prepaids, you could argue they're slightly better. But again, we still have to use overpriced equipment. We have to meet all these domestic requirements that are constantly increasing. These types of regulations, by the way, uh, aren't being placed on, again, the utility themselves. That they don't have to procure their transformer equipment from, U.S. Steel or from U.S. Engineering firms that are putting together these electrical components. They don't have to procure that. They can go get that from wherever because it's necessary infrastructure. Well, that's what solar and batteries are. They're necessary infrastructure, but they're not treated that way because again, it's like there's so much resistance to it. Like I went and sat with this 85, 86-year old Army vet the other day. And it
Mhm.
was funny. I was like a lead from online, which I hate taking online leads. They're the worst. But I'm like, fine, I got a little extra time. Let me go burn a couple hours here. So go sit with this guy, go to his house, sitting down with him. And he didn't even want solar. His bill was like 80 bucks. So I'm like, what the heck? Why am I here? But he just wanted a friend. You know what I mean? He just wanted somebody to
Let's go.
talk to. Poor guy. So I just let him talk for a while. Oh, I think this whole thing, he's like, excuse me, I don't want to be rude, but I think this whole solar thing is just brainwashing. I think that's what it really is. And he starts
But those
going
are the
off on,
best. You go down
yeah.
rabbit holes with old timers.
Yeah, it was
I
fun.
I
I
had I had
enjoyed it.
one here up in the wine country, and I was like, "Man, this guy's too old anyway." 86 years old or so. But he worked for a legendary winery, and I was at his house for like 2 hours, and he goes, "Hey, do you want a box of wine?" And it was all like 25-year-old wines, and
Oh, wow.
I was like, "Great, dude. This is awesome." But you got to have a real conversation. And we go
Right.
back to all of this, you and I have real conversations, but having old timer conversations, like there's more
Dude,
value to
it
that than
was it was great. I enjoyed it, but it was just funny to me because you could see that he was trying to wrap his brain, 86-year-old brain, around this new concept that just was completely, completely foreign, right? He didn't. So I wasn't, I already knew this wasn't a sale, but I just was like listening, right? And I said,
Mhm.
well, you have to get batteries now and solar. You can't just get solar. Laws have changed. He goes, the laws have changed. Well, why wasn't that on Channel 7 News? I didn't see that on Channel 7 News. And I said, well, sir, I'll be honest. The utility companies are in bed with the politicians and they don't put that on the news. They don't tell you about what's happening behind the scenes. They want you to keep paying your utility bill and have zero idea of what's happening, right? There's a lot of money in that ignorance. Well, I don't know. And it's funny. It's funny how you see people, they think it's the opposite because the media brainwashed them so well. They think it's the solar that's the scam when it's
Yeah,
the exact opposite. It's like, no, 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 no. They don't want you to have your own power plant. They don't want you to be off grid. They don't want you to have solar and batteries because then you don't need them anymore. And
right.
and they need you to need them. And that's the thing that people, I think, again, the average person is smart enough to grasp that it's not a very complex idea, but it's fascinating to see. One of my friends told me this. He said, the United States is the only place in the world where energy is political. Everywhere else, it's just what's the most cost effective way to get energy? Okay, we use all the different applications. Well, we got a bunch of hydro over here. We got a bunch of rivers and streams. Okay, cool. Let's set up some hydro dams. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Logical. No one's saying, "Oh,
Florida,
hydro dams are the end of the world." No. Oh, okay, we need nuclear. Okay, cool. Let's do some nuclear. I'm not against nuclear. Like
right.
I think that people assume because you're in solar and batteries that you're just ideologically possessed and that you just only see things through this green lens and you're just some hippie or whatever, right? And it's like, no, 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 no. I'm actually smart and I understand the bigger picture. But again, they don't understand the bigger picture. So until you can show them a little peek of the bigger picture, and that, wait a second, this is actually a logical decision,
Mhm.
like burnt setting money on fire every single month to PG&E is
Yeah,
the dumbest thing you could possibly freaking do. And the moment that you realize that, you're gonna wake up, but people don't. Like I almost am like, man, I know they spend millions of dollars to like put out fake ads and campaign, all these things to like just brainwash. They've spent millions and millions to brainwash people, but it's like, it's so good. Do they put something in the water? Like, how do they get people to be so dumb? Like, I feel that sometimes. It's
Well,
like,
I will say I actually don't even use the word green. I know
yeah,
we have some green backgrounds here. I call it energy diversification. So leading back to like Sonova, right? I hate to bring that word up again, but why did I survive when Sonova went under is because I had other projects that weren't PPAs and leases. I think our grid has to realize too is we need to have coal, we need to have nuclear, we need to have solar, we need to have wind, we need it all. And it's not just don't get me started on data centers. They'll make that a different podcast. But we just need more energy in general. If you look at France, for example, right now, huge heat wave. Have you ever been to Europe during a heat wave, Jonathan?
never.
They don't believe in AC. Okay, so like as much as like the world, we got AC in America. No AC, it's 110 degrees. I
It's
mean,
crazy.
my nose hurts from
People,
the
no, people
smell.
die. People die, literally. Yeah.
People died. They had festivals where there's I partake no drinking allowed because they didn't want people to dehydrate. Germany, Austria, no nuclear power plants, and that's because they got burnt. Right, Chernobyl's not far from them. There's a nuclear cloud there. But we're talking about Europe with the start to go global here. When the war started, Russia supplies all the energy for Europe in Ukraine,
Right.
right? So Russia said, "Oh, you don't like us, you're against us. Well, then you don't need my energy."
Right.
Right? So Ireland, where my family's all from, solar it's the most expensive utilities in Europe. And that's because they're isolated and they're like, "Oh, now they're adding solar and batteries because they realize, hey, this can really add a lot of diversification in our energy mix." And that's California, for example, way different. 26% of our energy is solar and wind. Now the problem is I bring up the when. When do we need the energy? When does the grid need the energy? You go to Pennsylvania, it's only 1% is solar and wind. So they're in that phase of where they need to add more solar and wind energy. But what is really going on is you need to get away from the green. It's just an energy source. And that's what I tell my clients because then you can kind of fit in the middle of like, hey, we're just going to provide energy. It's going to come off your roof. It's going to feed your house. It's going to feed the battery. And then you are dependent. I think everybody can agree that that is not political. That's the American dream. We want to be dependent. We want to save money and create our own energy, that you're actually taking stress off the grid instead of putting it on the grid. But it goes back to
Yeah,
these transformers.
I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm a bit antagonistic, Owen, but I like to use the charged word of green, all the emotion around it,
Mm,
because it's one of my submissions, my sub kind of like goals in this whole career. I've been doing this 14 years. I'm 34. I'm going to do it at least till I'm 50. So at minimum, another 16 years in this industry. It's one of my goals to either nicely or not nicely rub it in everyone's faces that green is the solution. And I'm not going to call it diversity or any other type of a name to try to be polite. I want people to know how stupid they are. And
yeah,
maybe that's just my own ego, it probably is, but it pisses me off like how dumb people can be. And I won't sell everybody, right? I don't expect to, but I will, and I'll spend my time doing that. Maybe that's just a waste of time pursuit, but I love the kind of convincing the people who were just completely on the opposite side, because it's not just a ideology or, oh, because I want to save the penguins or whatever. I don't care about the penguins. Like I'm talking pure hard numbers. I'm talking logic. I'm talking, like I almost want to do more debate style podcasts and get some really brilliant people on here and just go freaking at it, because this is the kind of conversations that excites me. Is Like, prove me wrong, that debate style format. Prove me freaking wrong that and here's the thing, solar by itself, if you're in a market like the United States, a lot of markets still have net metering. I sold batteries when you got into Owen, when you got into solar in 2020. I was selling batteries religiously on all of my systems. You didn't have to have batteries back then, by the
Mhm.
way. And I didn't actually make any more money. I actually made the exact same amount of money, but I believed in the idea of batteries before most anybody in the industry did. And so I started pushing them on every single job. And I was known at that time at Sunrun as the battery guru in 2020 because I was the only one really pushing them. And it's because I see that really having a system that's dependent on buying and selling back and forth between the utility is a short-term play, and the utility still holds all the leverage in that relationship. It's a one-sided if you ask me, it's really a one-sided relationship. It's actually more to serve the utility than it is the customer, the solar-only, value proposition. And
Mhm.
even the batteries being added, it's again, back to the VPPs, that's still to serve the utility. The way I sell solar is let's get you off grid as much of the time as possible with these batteries for self-consumption purposes, and quite frankly, if you can't tell, I have a lot of, honestly, hate. I'll go as far as to say hate in my heart for these rich freaking bastards who run the utility companies and the lies and scams that they play.
Yeah.
That I'm like, I don't want a penny from you guys. I don't want anything from you. I don't need anything from you. And I think that's the future. I think that these other markets that are still selling on incentives and buybacks and this and that and the other, those are short-term, grifts that just salespeople use to try to pique people's dopamine to get them interested to sign on the dotted line and get some slapped on their house that they have no idea how it works. But the real play for the people who are doing this for the next decade are hopefully going to get this in their head. That's not the play. It's
Mhm.
not the incentives. It's not the buybacks. It's freedom. It's literally disconnecting from the utility grid, disconnecting from all the insanity, and saying, you know what? I don't care if it even costs me more money up front than it costs. Just stick with the utility. I don't want to pay them another dime, and I will feed on the millions of people that have hatred in their heart for the utilities, and that's who I'm speaking to. I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. I'm feeding to that. I want to feed that monster of hate. Like I really do. And some people are like, "Oh, be careful, John. That's like a crazy approach." I'm like, "Dude, I don't freaking care, dude. These people, it's gloves off, dude. It's gloves
Yeah.
off. They don't care about me. None they make it abundantly clear. These utility companies are soulless corporations. They have no heart, none of them. The people, yes, maybe the people that work there, great. It provides jobs. Cool.
Yeah.
I hope they find a better job. Their job sucks. I'm sorry. They work for the evil people, but they're the evil people. They are. They're not providing a valuable service. I don't care what you say. Anyways, I feel like I've gotten on a lot of like high horse soapbox calls with this Owen,
Yeah.
and I usually don't do that. I don't know what you're sparking me.
Well,
It's that Irish blood or something.
I will say, and I always say too, because you want to be a little careful, because yes, the evil corporation. I call them the suits for the utilities who are making bad calls. I'm not the one getting a call at 2:30 in the morning as a transformer electrician. Hey, you need to get back out here. And sure, they get paid well, but they're also dealing with high voltage, dangerous stuff. That I still think there's a big value there. But what I want to get back to the utilities, where I'm at, Santa
Yeah,
Rosa, 20, it kind of sparked me to get in the industry. At the time, I worked at a restaurant. I got off late, and it's about 4 or 5 in the morning, and my wife is getting text messages. And I'm like, who the hell is this other dude texting my wife? It was her friends running for their lives because where she grew up in Sonoma was on fire. It burnt down. And then it burnt down. It came all the way over and burnt. And then you had the Paradise fires. And why did this happen? Is infrastructure that failed. PG&E's infrastructure, high winds. And PG&E learned their lesson. And now, anytime you have a fire, a red flag warning, they just turn off the grid. They just say, hey, if our lines are active during windstorms, we're turning off the grid. We fast forward to Palisades fires. Edison, high winds. Did they turn off the grid? No. And it's like, how did you not learn from your friends up north that you need to turn off the grid? And that is coming. There's going to be, you haven't experienced it yet. Come October, November, where we get our winds now, the grid is going to be shut down and they're going to turn it off. And it's good. It's a good move. So that is something that is coming and people need to be aware of it. And the utilities just play this stupid game of also, let's talk about San Francisco over the winter. You know what happened there, right? During Christmas break.
Oh, with those giant generators and like things to
I mean,
provide
blocks
power.
and blocks out of power. So you're like in
Right.
the center of this major city throwing Christmas parties because it was Christmas time, no power. No, nope. Like literally, Transformers toasted. San Francisco, probably one of the most profitable, rich cities in the United States. No power. And they literally had to ship in three generators
They
the
were massive. They're
size
like
of
shipping
shipping
containers.
containers in the
Yeah.
neighborhood. Have you ever heard a generator that's small that's turned on and then
It's loud, so loud.
very loud? You could hear these generators 2 miles away, and you could see the photo. It's in the neighborhood on the block. So if you live in that area, like people couldn't even sleep, people couldn't even go. Also, like what damage is that doing to you? That do you know what the issue was? Is they
What?
could not find the transformer because it had to come from China.
Right.
And it's just like such a mess. The grid is what it is. It's 100% necessary, but it's way smarter to have your own system and energy backup. Most people that just get solar are pretty disappointed when they find out, oh, I have no control of this energy. You just create and you push it back to the grid. And if you're an M2, that's cool. But that's where the batteries, you can control your energy. I will say Tesla has been great, but there is way cooler technology. I still personally think Franklin is close to my heart. That is my favorite battery on the market. It's just better. It's smart, but we're confined to the changes that we're waiting for. So I'm excited to see. In conclusion here of like, where do we go next? I don't know. I think everybody in our space needs to cling on like a dog and just keep on crunching, keep on going. And we'll see a lot of people leave the industry who, quite frankly, I don't think deserve to be here. Um, they don't do the research, they don't study their competitors, they don't study their batteries, their equipment. They're constantly probably asking me and you for free
Right. All the
information,
time.
and
Yeah.
it kind of gets old. It's like, hey, you can go and learn this stuff on your own. That's what I did, and I think there's the days of just sell it, figure it out, and you'll figure it out.
It's
The
gone.
barrier to entry in this industry now, it used to be that way, but if you're just joining this industry or if you're a pro, you should be learning new shit every single day.
Every day. Every day.
Every day. Yeah,
Every single day, 100%. It's like, not only do I it's like doing podcasts like this and talking, but it's like I'm on all the different trainings and it's like, okay, we're doing an N phase, we're doing an Enfin, we're doing a Aurora, we're doing it's like design training, battery
right.
training, solar financing, and then yeah, sales strategy is important too. I do a lot of those types of trainings, how to close, how to communicate to the customer, how to set proper expectations, blah blah blah. I'm doing one of those today at noon for my team, how to do objection handling at noon. So I do a lot of those things as well. But yeah, I love it. I mean, there's so much more we could talk about, Owen. It's like, wow, that hour flew by so freaking quick. But yeah, I
Yeah.
will definitely be sharing this. Where can people find you, Owen, if they want to hear more from you? Do you have any social media handles, anything like that?
Just Owen Carey on Facebook, and then his name is Owen is on my Instagram. I don't do a lot of the marketing, even though I have a degree in one. I focus on the sales. I have marketing people that a lot of people bring me deals to work on complicated projects, and then I like easy projects too. By the way, guys,
I
those
was
and
gonna
I,
say, Owen, you're the one that I know that gets brought. Like I get brought some complex, but I say no to certain things. I'm like,
yeah,
wait, how many? Oh, like you said. Wait, I'm actually curious. Like, how many in the past 12 months? How many different states have you sold solar in?
uh, 5 or 6.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
tell people now. I stick to what I know. I'm like, go find
yeah.
somebody else in Massachusetts to sell solar with. Like, it's too complex. But you say yes, so you got more courage than me on that front to go and figure out all the complexities of these different markets. So yeah, if you need help on those things, Owen is your guy, amazing mentor. And then yeah, thank you so much for being on the show, Owen. Really great to chat with you.
Thank you.
All right, so I just